It is ironic that we host this symposium in April every year. It's also ironic that this year's theme is Aneurysm Recovery, Celebrate Each Day. While I didn't come up with this theme, it really hit home for me. Celebrating each day is exactly what my husband and I try hard to do each and every day. Just 5 days ago, my husband and I celebrated. In fact, we celebrate every April 25th. 7 years ago, things changed instantly for us. Life as we knew it was being rewritten before our eyes, and we were not the ones holding the pen. Well, my eyes anyway. Joe was unconscious for the first several days. His doctors had placed him in a medically induced coma. You see, on April 25th of 2015, Joe and I had done a 5K. Walking, of course, I don't run, fast walking, but Joe had recently turned 50 and was so excited that he had actually come in first place for his age group. Never mind where I finished in the race. We won't discuss that. Anyway, we drove home. Everything seemed normal. Joe backed the car down our long driveway, got out of the car, and collapsed. Thankfully, our neighbor, who just happened to be a nurse, was driving past and saw him laying on the ground. She quickly hopped into action, checked his vitals, called 911. The paramedics arrived and they attended to Joe. They checked his vitals, ran some tests, and determined that he was just dehydrated from our 5K. It wasn't long after they left our home that I realized there was something seriously wrong with Joe. Having no choice, I drove him to the ER myself. Within a few hours, I'd been told that Joe had suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm. He was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital in Cincinnati and placed under the care of Dr. Andrew Ringer, his neurosurgeon. Joe's subarachnoid hemorrhage had placed so much pressure on his brain, the doctors were not sure if he would survive the night. I was advised to call in the family so we could say our goodbyes. Everyone arrived by the wee hours of the night, and one by one, we all said goodbye. The next several days, Joe faced surgeries, setbacks, and scares. I became a student of brain aneurysms and probably drove his surgeons and nurses crazy with all my questions. Joe's aneurysm had been coiled, but within days, it was discovered that more coils would be needed because the blood was returning to the aneurysm site. After his second or third, or honestly, I don't remember how many cerebral brain angiograms, they decided to place a stent in the artery. I didn't leave Joe's side. I was afraid to. I watched his chest rise and fall as he breathed. I stared incessantly at the monitors, and the nurses taught me how to read them. One night during Joe's hourly neurological assessments, they found him unresponsive. He was rushed into surgery yet again. Joe spent 3 weeks in the intensive care unit at Good Sam. The nursing staff had become our friends. Recovery was slow, challenging, and frustrating. I think our celebrations actually started during those 3 weeks. At least I was celebrating. The days dragged on. Day 21, Joe moved from ICU to inpatient rehab. The nurses even helped us celebrate that day. The next 2 weeks, Joe spent in inpatient rehabilitation. It was some of the most challenging days of his life, physically and emotionally. But we celebrated. We celebrated each accomplishment, no matter how significant. Some days, there really wasn't much to celebrate, but we still tried to find something. Joe finally came home 5 weeks after his rupture. It wasn't easy. It wasn't the same, but we still celebrated. He spent several weeks in outpatient occupational and physical therapy. He spent 3 months in speech therapy. Joe's memory became his biggest challenge. His short-term memory was gone, but he'd also lost a lot of his long-term memory. It's a struggle even today, 7 years later. Our daughter, Tori, who was a junior in high school the day of his rupture, had graciously agreed to take Joe to his speech therapy sessions 3 times a week. Joe wasn't able to start driving again for some time, and I had to return to work. One of our celebrations is that Tori is now in her final semester of grad school, working on her master's degree in speech therapy. She just completed her final clinical at Gardner Neurological Institute at the University of Cincinnati. Tori was so touched by how Joe's speech therapist helped him that she decided this was the career path for her. Joe experienced several instances in the months that followed his release from the hospital where he would pass out or appeared unresponsive. I learned to quickly detect these moments and, of course, would always call Dr. Ringer. Each time it would mean another cerebral angiogram for Joe. Honestly, I've lost count of how many he's had. However, I grew to like them because it gave me peace of mind that everything was okay. Joe, however, he hated them. During one of Joe's follow-up visits with Dr. Ringer, after yet another cerebral angiogram, it was determined that the stent that had been placed in Joe's artery did not deploy. Joe faced another surgery in November of 2015 to repair this. We again celebrated when we later found out that that surgery was a success. We've both changed from our experiences. We both look at life differently. We both learned the value of instinct and trusting your gut. I knew Joe wasn't dehydrated. I knew it was something more. I learned that you must be an ambassador for your health. I was there with my husband every step of the way, grasping as much information as I could to educate myself on what we would be facing and how to handle our new normal. Walking through this journey has taught us to be more thankful, to celebrate life, and to continually share our story of hope. Thank you for allowing me to share today.